pre-war building in New York City. So
Mm.
I said, go by a window or even outside, maybe.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Behind the Scenes. And today we have a guest, Stephanie.
Oh, I'm a
You're a
guest.
guest. Say hi.
Hi,
Um,
everyone.
and we're so excited to have you here with us.
Happy to
Holly
be
is here
here.
also and trying so hard to get on, but she's having trouble. So hopefully she'll make her way on. But we invited Stephanie because she has younger kids than a lot of us on this call today. And we wanted to talk about social media and its impact on kids today. And in fact, tomorrow, your team with Sue and Steph will drop a podcast. Our podcast will drop, and it is all about this topic with an expert that we spoke to. So the question is, you read the newspaper and you hear about like scary things that happen as a result of a TikTok challenge. A 13-year-old boy just died from taking, what was it? Benadryl, too many Benadryl pills. And so it just seems like such a scarier world than it was even a short time ago. So um, we wanted this to be a conversation, and we want people who are listening to also jump into the comments and share anything they know or questions they have. Um, but to start, I am going to pass it to who said they had, Mindy, you had questions.
Right. Because I think the topic was my idea last week when I was saying that, you read so much on social media, you read so much online that social media is such a negative for our kids, especially teenage girls, self-esteem and body image. And so you just mentioned the TikTok. And I rarely see anything, an article, a post where, oh, thank goodness for social media. It's been so great for my teenager. It's been so great for my teen. Yet they're all on it. So I started to think, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing to our kids? And I know through the pandemic, it was a lifeline for kids. It was a way to connect. And I know even today, you hear parents and even parents here in our group saying there would be no social life were it not for social media. So I guess my question is, do the positives outweigh the negatives? And my children are older. People who have listened know that. But do the positives outweigh the negatives? And if so, okay, that's wonderful. But if they don't, like parents, what should we do? What are you doing? Are you limiting time? Is anyone taking away social media? I saw, and I know she's a celeb and she lives a totally different life, but I think it was Jennifer Garner said, her children don't get social media until they're 18. Is that something you've seen? Wait until 8, meaning wait until 8th grade. So I was just really curious, and I'd love to hear. I hope we get parents out there too, besides our panel here that have kids. Like, what are your thoughts? What are your plans? What do you talk to other moms about? What are people doing? What are parents doing? So I'll throw it over to those of you who have a stronger opinion or who have kids on social media with that question, those questions. Go ahead.
Well, I could chime in. I mean, it's a huge challenge, and yeah, you're sort of the guinea pig about it because yeah, we don't have those long-term studies or and yeah, I often have that conversation with my kids. Like tell me the positives. Do a presentation on the pros and cons and convince me that it's okay. And I think that's my perspective, is all about keeping the conversation open and the communication open, because I probably, I wish I could be as, strong-willed as Jennifer Garner, and physically strong, all that stuff. But it's hard. It's sort of like, when your daughter asks for, the trendy pair of pants or something, and you want to say no and keep her grounded and not have to get what everybody else has and instill those values. But at the same time, you could be making her life more challenging at a very challenging time in adolescence. So do you get the pants? Do you not get the pants? And it's sort of the same conflict you have in your head about social media. It's, you want her to be part of, the community and that social aspect. But I think it's all about the communication and just, I feel like my kids can talk to me about anything, and they do. And I'm in the hot seat a lot, having to answer, some uncomfortable, awkward questions, but I'm just grateful that they feel they can talk to me. Because I don't know if I have the strength to say no, absolutely not, as much as I would want to. So
interesting.
I completely agree with what Stephanie says. I think on top of, you wanted some positives, Mindy. I'll tell you some positives that I kind of sometimes soothe myself with, right? I think there is a lot of, so even though I hope my kids don't get their news from social media, but I do think there are a lot of things, little things that they learn from it. So for example, my one daughter is a drummer, and she all the time, she looks up little clips where other people drum, and then she goes and she tries to recreate them and she practices them. My other daughter loves to bake, so she watches these little videos, and this is the only way she has learned how to decorate cookies the nice way, and they don't look like mine. There are these little fun skills that they pick up from there, and I don't think they would try it without it. And I know that doesn't outweigh a lot of issues with social media, but I do see that there are these little islands that are really fun, and that kind of triggers creativity, and so I think that is kind of the fun and the good part of social media. And I think, like Holly and I said last week, I think it's impossible to really put a stop on social media without completely stifling their social life, because if we like it or not, everything they do in person continues on social media, and it often is the bigger part of it. And if they are not on it, then they will be excluded from everything their friends are up to.
Wow. Do you think, just before, and Holly, I just have to say this, I feel like you're our reporter on the street. Maybe you could ask a few people walking by, like, so I'm doing this. Hi, I'm with your teen magazine.
Do you really want me to? Really?
No.
But just one quick question. So do you think it pretty much outweighs, like you're comfortable that kind of negates the negatives?
I don't think it negates the negatives, but it just adds to a more a different teen existence than we had. Like, for instance, I had the lucky adventure this weekend of being with my daughter and two of her soccer mates at a soccer tournament, and they were surprisingly very inclusive of me the whole weekend. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go with this, because normally. And to see just how much the social media is part of their even the phones is part of their existence when they're in the room with each other, it's almost like a new way of living. Does that make sense? Like, for me, it seems so awkward to be sitting in a living room with someone watching TV and then kind of also being on your phone. But for them, that's just the way they live. So it is I think like Stephanie said, it's this balance, and you can't just say no, because I think I said it last week, great for Jennifer Garner's kids. Everybody probably wants to be friends with them because they're Jennifer Garner's kids. If my daughter, especially in high school, wasn't on social media, I mean, her socialization would be so limited. She wouldn't be, I don't think, living a normal life. I kind of wish as parents we could all just make a pact, and be like, I got your back. We're none of us are going to get phones till 8th grade, and none of us are going to allow social media until whatever age. But it's tough because, and I don't know why, if it's a younger generation of parents, that I don't know, but I feel like different parents look at it differently. And I'm like, oh my God, my kid can't drink under 21. They can't go to a rated R movie, but they can have all access 24 hours a day. To everything on the phone and on social media.
I will say, because I kind of grew up with social media, I'm 28 now. I was 13 when Facebook was becoming a thing, and like even now, like I talk to younger people, and it feels like it's just gotten like a bigger and bigger beast. And like I don't know, sometimes I think parents just don't like realize how much has changed and don't know how to like because kids spend all their time online and like don't know how to disengage, don't know when they should disengage, don't know like when it's becoming overwhelming, when it's becoming dangerous, that they need to step back and just I don't know, I do think that just keeping as much communication with kids, and also just again in general, I'm a very online person, and like sometimes when I hear parents talking about social media and talking about concerns that I don't see, and I see and hear very different things than what people are looking for, particularly like online gaming and that kind of stuff. I don't know. I do think
I think Jessica's point goes to this idea that the ship has sailed, right? So
yeah.
if the ship has sailed, which I don't think anyone would argue that we could, how could we rein it in? So then the question is, how do you parent? Like, what does that do to your parenting on a regular basis? Do you have parameters? Do you have parent, whatever it's called, what are the things called?
Well, I mean,
the
like contracts.
What?
Or like
I
screen
would say, like-
time and, putting, almost like the online curfew and, I
Yeah.
think for me, it's, my kids, aren't in high school yet. And maybe, as the, academic and, that kind of thing, becomes, more of a force in their lives, I will regroup and rethink, the approach. But I think it is a matter of establishing balance and when does it become a problem? When as long as they're going to school on time and their grades are okay and they're then that helps to create that balance. Because putting it depends, every family is different, but sometimes putting those limitations on can backfire. And kids, they don't know it, but they do need boundaries and they do need limits. They subconsciously crave it, but at the same time, there's a line. If you cross it, it can end up backfiring, and they could, be doing things anyway. Or there's also their friends who are perhaps a bigger influence in their lives. They say, I don't know what study it was, but they say, friends are, they have a huge impact on child development. So
let me jump in with what Mallory just shared, so we can see what our audience is thinking. Did it go over?
It's on. Do you want me to read it since it's not showing for you?
Sure. Oh no, okay. Yeah, you can read it, Jessica.
Okay, Mallory says, I read somewhere that the best way to keep your kids safe on social media is to help build their confidence, show them love, and keep them validated. They said it helps keep them from getting it from someone else. I'm not sure if it works yet. Still testing it out. What do you think? No.
So I have something to say about that, Mallory. I think that helping them with the confidence using social media and also in general is helpful. But I also agree with rules. We are a rules household, because my belief is that if your kid is breaking the rules or finding ways to circumvent the rules, you actually have another issue. The rules aren't the issue, and what the rules are around are not the issue. So it may be a good thing to find out if your kid is going to go out of their way. We eased our kids into it, and it's interesting. The older ones, they fluctuate a little bit older than Jess and a little bit younger. The older ones, it's okay, it's a tool, whatever. For the younger one, he was in the midst of it, and the older ones told us, do not give him a phone until it's necessary. We didn't even, because I was like, where do I come up with these rules? And they were like, listen, this is what you need to do. It doesn't matter what they were more strict about it than we were. They were in the midst of it. One of them is an educator. But at some point, you do have to wean them into using it and using it responsibly, because it becomes a part of their life. For those of us who've had kids recently in high school or college, that's how they communicate, not just with each other, but if there's an event going on, you find out about it through whatever social media platform happens to be in for that particular group. If they're in a club, they have groups and certain things and da da da. And so if they're not adept at social media and don't have access to it beginning in high school, they'll be left out of things that you want them to participate in, not just regular conversation. And it just becomes increasingly so. And you don't want to just throw them into that where they have access to all the other stuff we worry about, plus the group communications that are important. So we ease them into it a few hours a day when they're younger. Don't do it at night. We had a really scary situation with our youngest once when he was not allowed to play video games. He's a gamer like Jess, two of our sons are. And he could play online only with people we approved of, were basically just his friends and his brother's friends. And I had a suspicion that he was playing with a stranger, and he was not allowed to do that. It was dangerous. We did everything that all parents do to teach him that. And I literally ran a sting operation, told him I was going to do some errands, went out one door, came back in the other door, and lo and behold, he's on with the stranger, which, I mean, my heart, because it is so dangerous. And he was young enough that he could have done and said really stupid things without knowing, and just put himself in so much danger. And there were consequences to that. And I'd love to say, oh, it just never happened again. But I think he just aged, right? To the point where these things start happening and becomes part of their lives. It's not that, oh, we fixed that problem. It's just he grew. But that was incredibly frightening to me. When he was even younger, one time he was on Disney and he was playing something and he wanted to play. And I said, you can do it if I do it with you. And we're lying down on my bed. This is an elementary school kid. And I see strangers coming in, asking him to play with them.
Ooh, yeah.
That's when I became really vigilant about, you cannot play with strangers.
And it's interesting, Kamara, you said that. And I'm a rule person too. My family we were rules. So I'm glad to hear you're with me on that. But we do have an old article, and I wonder, we should maybe relook at it, that parent online. Do you remember this, Sue? You and I go way back. Parent online the way you would offline. So if you're a rule follower and you set limits and you have curfews and you have expectations of your kids in real life, that's what is expected online, right? Yeah. So I don't know, maybe that's something, maybe that's a way to look at it too. So if you have rules and you're kind of, I don't know, as my boy said, the strict parent, okay, so you're strict online. I don't know. It might be interesting, Jess. Maybe you could find that. It's probably very old, but.
And it could be fun. Like we said, it can be fun. Like now we share videos, and if we've had a conversation about something, somebody will share videos. And if we have a similar interest, and it does bring the family together because people are in different states and schools and living lives. And it's nice. We can be having a conversation it can be about basketball. Yesterday it was about basketball. Right. One of my sons, we both have a interest in urban design and things. And so we'll be sending each other things from the Netherlands and stuff. So they're like Francisca said, there are really cool things that you can find, and it can spark conversation and help you connect with your child.
We have another great article, if Jessica can find it, which is about a family that every Sunday night sits down to share like the images or the conversations or whatever that from social media. It's like a whole family activity. And it continued after the kids left home, which is so, to have a tradition that continues. Anyway, we have some good stuff if Jessica can find that.
I wonder, the old question, the old, where you sit down to dinner and, okay, tell me about the best part of your day. Tell me about the worst part. Maybe it could be, all right, show me the worst thing you saw online today. Show me the best.
You want to know?
I don't know the worst, but I know that with my family, we're constantly sending each other funny things we saw on Instagram. And so it's, sometimes it's like inside family jokes. So there is that. It's a way to keep us connected in that way. My husband's constantly sending me, I'm afraid of alligators. He's constantly sending me alligator videos to desensitize me. I don't know if that's good, but, so, I mean, there is that part of it that's positive, because there are some really clever things out there, and there are some funny videos. But I also think my children are older, but when they were younger, Mindy and I have kids around the same age, and it wasn't as prevalent. It was kind of new, and nobody really knew what they were doing, and they didn't know not to tag themselves. And so I would get phone calls from my father-in-law asking like why my daughter had been tagged in a post that wasn't necessarily appropriate. You know, they didn't know it. So they were new to it and they were kind of screwing up, and we were able to kind of catch them at it. But I think they're more clever these days.
Here, Jenny
Yeah.
makes a really good point. I'm going to share this. Jessica, if you want to read it when it comes up.
Jessica, you're muted. Jessica.
Okay,
Jessica,
so I think we need to just say no social media at all for ourselves and our kids. It's stealing our focus, attention, and talent. It's incredibly telling that I think this all the time, Jenny.
yes,
It's incredibly telling that the developers of these platforms don't allow their children to use any of it.
right.
Yeah.
Great point. I think that's a great, yeah.
Montana just banned Twitter. Not
Oh,
Twitter,
really?
TikTok.
TikTok.
So, you know, we could see some legislation helping us out on this. You know, it'd be like, well, don't blame me, you know, blame like, you know, it's not me.
Right. That's actually, it's like the curfew, right? The town curfew. Sorry.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, yeah.
11, it's not me. But yeah, and I think that's really important. That and the addictive quality about it. You hear that all the
It's
time.
very
The
addictive.
developers say it's addictive. And
I mean, I think everything that,
Really?
that we experience with social media, the positive and the negative, applies to our children. I think it just gets scary because, you know, children are children and their brains are developing and their
Right.
judgment is, you know, and they also, it's a time in their life when they should be encouraged to make mistakes, but the mistakes they make now in today's day and age can be so long lasting. And so I think, you know, but yeah, the positives are definitely there, you know, this, you know, just, yeah, for an entertainment value, a learning value, there's, you know, connection and, you know, so yeah, it's just a matter of educating them for the potential, you know, pitfalls that they may face, you know, using it.
Okay, so
Does it, I mean, is it more important? Is the negative outweigh the positive or vice versa?
Just try talking again. Can people hear me?
it does. I don't think it matters, Eka, because Melissa, were you trying to say something? You're on mute. I don't
Jessica.
think it matters if the negative outweighs the positive since it's here. Now what we have to figure out how to do is raise our kids with constraints in a world that we know less than they do. But okay, I want to wrap this up and say what a fun conversation. And it's nice to hear that there are good things happening on social media and that there are parents who are struggling with trying to do this in a good way for their kids, not punish them for the world that they live in, but also find ways to keep them safe. And I think to Stephanie's point, I think about this all the time. Like this whole way of resilience building is about taking risks. And then this whole other line of conversation is don't take risks. And we tell our kids that over and over again. And it's so complicated. I can't understand it. I don't know how a kid's brain can do that, but we're stuck with it. So we are relying on Franziska, Holly, and Stephanie to pave the way for the next group of parents.
Great.
Can I just add one? Can I just add one quick thing? I think maybe it was Franziska and Stephanie that said, I wish I had the strength. I just want to say as an older mom, you do have the strength. You know, you have the strength to set the limits you want, to do what you want. Believe in yourself and your parenting, because then your kids will believe in themselves too. So that's my soapbox.
Well, I think the one thing I've been able to do, which is hard, is like at night they have to put their phone in the kitchen because I think a lot of bad stuff can happen at night. When I can't just pop in.
Sleep on it. You know, don't do anything and wake up in the morning with a fresh perspective.
Yes.
And
Yeah, that's
Mindy, is that your
right?
line? Tell us your line.
Who's
My line is nothing good happens after midnight.
Yeah.
It's like a gremlin.
I was just
Yeah, nothing good happens after midnight.
Sue, we have.
Although I do say when they get older, maybe 11th or 12th grade, slowly allow them, maybe first on the weekends, etc., because they're going to be leaving the house soon. And like everything, you don't want it all to be the first time for everything or they'll just explode.
You're right.
Right.
No, my high schooler gets it at night. She's in 11th grade, but the 8th grader,
Right.
and it's a fight. but it's a fight we have every night. He has to put it in the kitchen at bedtime.
Holly,
And I
I
have to
All right,
do it in the
everybody,
morning.
it's a wrap. Holly, thank you so much for Stephanie. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank
Holly,
you.
thank you for being our reporter on the streets of New
I
York.
mean, it's really funny, but at least I got on.
I think you're onto something. I think.
Yeah. Have a great week, everybody.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.